So you know how in some fantasy games like the Elder Scrolls, mer means elf, and it's like a suffix for the kind of elf, so Dunmer are dark elves, Altmer are high elves, and so on. So does that mean that mermaids are like servant elves? Slave elves? Because I don't know if you've ever analysed Disney's The Little Mermaid as a metaphor for racial emancipation, but it works alarmingly well. It started as a joke, but the more I thought about this, the more shocked I was at the amount of sense it made. And before we start, I should point out that this is a Disney property. And as I don't want to spend another month of my life editing a finished video to comply with their dystopian idea of fair use, I will be using almost no footage from the movie. I will instead be recreating the scenes I'm talking about using sophisticated Japanese animation software. So, to recap the story, it's about Ariel, a girl who is literally 3/5 of a person, who wishes she was human. And the reason she wants to be human? Because of all the shiny material wealth they have. So our introduction to the main character is King Triton is having a big event where all 7 of his bikini-clad daughters dance and sing for him, as you do. But shock horror, Ariel isn't there, because she's out hunting for the discarded wealth of a society that barely acknowledges her race even exists. She finds a fork and wonders, what could this be? A fork. Not shoes or a bicycle or anything else that a mermaid could never possibly have a use for. A fork. AKA a small trident, the only item of mermaid technology we ever see. King Triton then lectures her about the dangers of race mixing and how she should stay away from humans. Why? Because he doesn't, quote, want to see my youngest daughter snared by a fish-eater's hook. Not killed, snared, as in captured, by these exclusively white people coming across the ocean in their boats. Later that day, Ariel sees a boat full of humans and falls in love with the prince on board. Of course, Disney. The boat then sinks in a storm. She rescues the prince and sings him back to life. But she runs away before he gets a good look at her. Later, Ariel keeps going on and on about how she's in love with the human prince, so the crab, aka the only black cast member, sings Under the Sea, which is basically the nautical version of All's Good in the Hood. The whole point of the song is, we don't need wealth for an economy, because we've got rhythm. Oh, and then there's this line. The fish on the land ain't happy, they sad 'cause they in the bowl. And then they show a sad fish, caged in a bubble. Like, you see what I mean about this movie, right? That's barely even a metaphor. And combine that with this line. Up on the shore they work all day, out in the sun they slave away. I think it's pretty clear from this that the sea is actually a metaphor for pre-colonialist Africa, and the shore is 1700s America. And that's basically all they say in the song. All the rest of it is just them listing the various instruments the fish play. You know, the lings on the strings, the trout's rocking out, the blackfish she sings. Every other fish gets an internal rhyme, but Disney broke their entire rhyme scheme just to let you know that the blackfish she sings. Which is A, not a well-known kind of fish. They didn't need to bring it up. No one's sitting at home and wondering where the blackfish is. This isn't the representation that anyone's looking for, apart from maybe David Duke. And B, it doesn't have the large red lips Disney gave it. But Ariel is unconvinced by these sea grows and their soulful tunes, so she meets the witch Ursula. Ursula is androgynous, coded queer, and her design is actually based on the 1970s drag queen Divine. So of course she's the degenerate villain, because Disney. Oh, and she loves making deals and bargains. I don't know what group of people that could possibly be an analogy for. Ursula thinks Ariel should meet the prince, so she gives Ariel an evil potion of code switching. And then, in the most subtle metaphor of all time, Ariel changes her racial identity but loses her voice. Do you get it? Her voice is her cultural identity and agency. And now she has to get the prince to kiss her within 3 days or Ursula owns her. Not just her soul, her. As a person, she outright refers to her as a commodity later on. So the newly human Ariel meets the prince, and he recognises her as the girl he fell in love with, but then she can't speak, so he concludes it can't be her. Because as we all know, you're either born mute or you aren't. She couldn't possibly have naturally lost her voice in the intervening couple of days. So then a load of padding with no relevance to the plot happens, until finally the prince and Ariel are in a boat, and the crab sings a little song to convince the prince to kiss her. Now I won't say much about this, apart from the fact it includes this verse. Yes, you want her. Look at her. You know you do. Possible she want you too. There is one way to ask her. It don't take a word, not a single word. Go on and kiss the girl. One way to ask her. No other. The only way to know if she's into it is to start doing it and see if she objects. Teaching all the right lessons about consent there, Disney. They nearly kiss, but Ursula, who's as shocked as everyone else is that interracial romance could actually happen, stops them just in time. So then Ariel wakes up the next day to discover that Ursula, disguised as a pretty femme girl, has appropriated her culture, i.e. used Ariel's stolen voice, to convince the prince to marry her. Fortunately, Ariel and her animal friends attack her and break the amulet with Ariel's voice inside. revealing Ursula to not be a femme heteronormative girl, but a filthy androgynous queer, once again invading cis-het female safe spaces like public bathrooms and marrying princes. But it's too late, it's been 3 days, and now Ariel belongs to Ursula, so Ariel turns back into a mermaid. And the prince doesn't look amazed so much as kind of annoyed, which supports my theory that this is all a metaphor for slavery. The prince should be amazed that the mythical mermaids are real, but instead he looks strangely betrayed by her deceit. Not like she's a myth to him, but like she's part of an underclass he doesn't like to admit is real. King Triton agrees to swap places with Ariel, making Ursula ruler of the ocean. She tries to kill them all, but then the prince stabs her with a boat. A whole boat. Someone got paid to write this. And then the handsome prince stabs the gay witch with a boat. My money please, Mr. Disney. So then Ursula dies of boat-inflicted stab wounds. It then shows all the souls she previously trapped being freed, which begs the question of why Triton didn't just immediately kill Ursula. Nothing in the contract forbade killing. Ursula immediately tried to kill Ariel once they swapped. The contract itself is magically indestructible because it's legal, but under whose authority? Is the invisible hand of the market an actual deity in this universe? Everyone celebrates. The king decides that she does actually love the prince and turns her into a human permanently. Apparently, this was always an option. Yeah, Ariel, don't go to the person you know and trust to make you a human. Go straight to the evil queer demon. And then Ariel and the prince get married. Oh, and Ariel gets turned into a human while the prince is still unconscious, and at no point later does he ever acknowledge that she was a mermaid. Which adds further evidence to my point. The only time he ever acknowledges that mermaids in general even exist is in the final shot of the movie, where he waves at some of them as he sails away. He only accepts Ariel now that she's all the way human again. At no point is there any attempt in the movie for the prince to accept her how she really is. See, he loves her voice, i.e. a product of her culture, because it's new and novel to him, but he's unwilling to acknowledge the reality of where it came from. The only time he will even admit that these mermaid slave elves even exist is when he's sailing safely away from them, because anything else would force him to come to terms with the fact that his suspiciously nameless kingdom was built on the subjugated labour of the aquatic classes. It's also worth noting that the fish seem to be an underclass in of themselves. They're shown to be as intelligent and sentient as mermaids and humans, but the mermaids use them as beasts of burden and are always shown in positions of authority over them. Triton orders Sebastian around, but Ariel ignores him, and she's always shown bossing around Flounder, even though he seems to be her friend and not a servant. Under the Sea is supposed to be Sebastian scaremongering about the surface, but everything he says about it is true for fish. When Sebastian discovers a kitchen full of dead fish, he's horrified, and rightfully so. Fish are as intelligent as people in this universe, so this is basically genocide. But this is never addressed. Ariel takes the idea that humans eat fish completely in her stride, and nothing is done to change this by the end of the movie, even after humans discover that mermaids are real and that they have dangerous ocean magic. This suggests that humanity is a metaphor for class. The animal fish are the working class, the partially human mermaids are the petty bourgeoisie, and the full humans are the capitalist class. The fish work for the mermaids rule and manage the fish, and the humans consume the fish, which presumably the mermaids don't mind as they do nothing to stop it. But they are still under the sea, and closer to fish than humans. The humans are separate on the shore. However, this movie shows mermaids getting the option of upwards mobility if a human thinks that they're hot, and if they're willing to completely abandon their home and native culture. But fish never get that option as they are too other for humans. Their relationship to humans doesn't change. So that's The Little Mermaid, a charming movie about how it's not race that divides us, it's multiculturalism, and those sneaky, underhanded gays. And finally, let's just acknowledge the fact that Disney has announced they are remaking The Little Mermaid with a black actor playing Ariel. This is not where the idea for this video came from. I originally had the idea for most of this script for 2 years ago in the form of a stand-up routine, and I've had multiple black people tell me in person that they liked it, so it's scientifically not racist and you're not allowed to complain.